Welcome to Bootstrap Businessmen, the podcast focused on developing the entrepreneur within on a shoestring budget. And I am your host, #1 best-selling fitness author, Dale L. Roberts, and I'm joined by my co-host, the Midwest best, Kevin S. Allen.
Hey, man, how we doing tonight, Dale? How you feeling?
Fantastic, feeling great as usual, of course.
All right, man, same here. Hey, I just wanted to throw a little thing in here. Hey, everybody that's listening, please support the show by simply shopping at Amazon.com. We have a link provided in our show notes. All you got to do is bookmark that in your browser. Anytime you go to shop at Amazon, just click on that. Basically, a small percentage gets kicked back to us. Doesn't cost you any more money. That small percentage helps cover the cost of our show, and overhead. So if you want to keep hearing the awesome, great content and some of the great guests and stuff that we got coming to you, just go in, bookmark that, use that link.
Excellent. Yeah. And hey, remember, if you like the show, then show us some love. Click the follow button on our site at show.bootstrapbusinessmen.com, Stitcher, or iTunes. And the best part is you won't miss out on a single episode if you're following us. And should we decide to have a special pop-up show with exclusive time-sensitive promotions, then you'll know all about it.
Which we've had what, at least 3 or 4 probably over the last few weeks here. Yeah. Pop-up episodes. We're giving away a lot of great books, some audio books. Man, people got to follow.
That's absolutely true. All right, we are officially live and on the air, and I got to tell you today, I want to say thank you if you're tuning in live, because if you tuned in live, you probably hit the subscription on Bootstrap Businessmen over on YouTube.com. If you're not tuning in live, then what are you doing? Subscribe to the YouTube channel, because you're going to miss out on awesome things in a live type format, no net. And today is probably one of my, I'm going to say this before I even start the show. We were already laughing and yucking it up and having a good time already. My good and close buddy, best friend, I would even say, and also former tag team partner from my wrestling days, Dustin, Rayz, Frasier. Dustin, baby, are you excited about today?
I'm always excited when I get to talk to you, my friend.
That's true. That's true. Usually, we get. How long does a typical phone conversation last between us?
I have to set aside at least 15 minutes at the very minimum.
Yeah.
So I feel like anything less than that doesn't do the conversation justice.
Nice. Right. It's almost like we got to set an appointment. It's kind of like, let me work you into the calendar here, because I know that we're going to have to catch up over the last 90 days. So, now that I've introduced you, I really haven't talked so much about your background, and so I want to kind of, do a little bit of, bragging here for you, because I know that you ain't going to do it. Dustin here is actually, he's been in the professional wrestling business for, it's been, what, a decade and a half now?
I want to say since 2002.
2002. So yeah, it's been roughly almost 15 years at this point.
I know, it's scary when you say that.
Yeah.
Like only yesterday, I was having my first match, and now I have kids at Rockstar Pro Wrestling and other places that I go referring to me as Sir, and I'm like,
Sir, yeah.
And it's so weird, and I'll never get used to it. So.
Yeah, it is really, really tough. I'll tell you, and thankfully I'm no longer there, doing the pro wrestling thing with you, because otherwise I'd probably be like, oh. But in any event, so I was bragging about you here. So Dustin, he's been in the industry for 14, 15 years now. He's been working a lot on the independents. He has broken just about every bone in his body and had it sewn back together, and he has so many metal parts. I'm sure that he has to go through special metal detectors when he's going on flights. Also, he has he's a great graphic design artist. He actually has sewn many different trunks and tights and outfits for many big professional wrestlers in the industry. That was one of the really cool things about, knowing Dustin, was the fact that, I swear to you, like, he would charge other people, but I come up to him, I'm like, hey, I need some trunks. How much do you need? Oh, don't worry about it, man. He would always pick me up. I was like, damn, dude. So in the event, going a little further forward, I don't know, do you do sewing anymore?
I mean, I do it occasionally. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've not been a fan of doing it since I started, but it was a real quick way of making some fast cash, especially since I started garnering a name, and it, and word spreads fast. But in all reality, I mean, it's something that I don't really enjoy doing anymore because it was for that very reason. It was for that very reason that I didn't follow a true career in graphic design. Is because I hated when people would say, "Here's my idea, be creative." I just want to be creative. Like, when you're an artist, you don't like anybody telling you what to do. It's your thing. So I don't know. It's okay. Like, if I get an idea, I gotta put it down. I want to make it. Like, I love the fabrication side of it. So it just depends. I know it's not a very solid answer, but it's like I'm real hit or miss when it comes to sewing anymore.
Yeah, I remember sometimes you would complain that when you're working for long hours on the sewing machine, you would say it would just kill your back.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I was actually working on some stuff today, trying to get back into it because recently I had broken my collarbone wrestling, and I had a plate put in. And it was hard for me to keep my arm elevated to even feed fabric through or to cut. So I've been doing a lot of almost like rehab sewing as of lately, just to get back to my 100% sewing skills.
Yeah, so kind of like an occupational therapy type deal then.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Yeah, and I think that you're very modest because you've created some amazing stuff. Sometimes your most basic things were incredible, and
Thank you.
yeah, we can name drop, but I mean, there's some of the people in this show may not know some of the names, so rather than us name dropping, we might as well just go ahead, just skip right over that. But there's two ways that you've been an entrepreneur, and that is through wrestling, of course, and sewing. But here more recently, since you broke your collarbone, you've kind of spread out into a new venue. Share with me exactly what inspired you to get in towards that, and of course, what is it? So don't be afraid. Spare no details. Startup costs, and of course, any kind of specific profits. Are you in the red? Are you in the black? Things like that. So go for it.
Such a long story for such a truly a short answer.
Yeah.
But okay, so there's been two times in my career where I've had life-changing experiences. The first one was when I was wrestling in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. It was my first time on in a pretty big pay-per-view for Combat Zone Wrestling, and I broke my leg. Broke my leg live on pay-per-view. It was probably the worst thing that at that time in my life I feel like could have happened to me, because here I am laying on the outside of the ring with a broken femur, so I have basically a second knee above my left knee. And the thing is, and don't let me kid you, I mean, it hurt like hell, but I was more mad than anything. I was so angry because I felt like I blew my shot. But in all reality, that gave me a tremendous amount of inspiration because I was down for 2 weeks. I was down for 2 weeks, and then I decided, I can't sit here anymore. I got to get up. I got to get into the gym. And I can pay for any physical therapy. So, with my previous experience doing managing with a personal training company, I was like, I'm just going to rehab myself. So I went to Wright State University. Wright State University, where I posed as a student. I had borrowed somebody's student ID number, and I would pose as a student every day. And let me just say, thank you, Josh Welker. We're not friends, but I stole his identity numerous times just to use the free gym. But
dude, that is awesome.
And I was. There used to be this guy there at the gym, an older gentleman, and his name escapes me right now. Mm-hmm. But he reminded me of like 60 or 70-year-old like Hulk Hogan. He had an American flag bandana, ponytail hanging out the back, and I swear to God, he had some of the biggest arms for an old man that I've ever seen. And this dude, he was an imposing figure. He was probably about 6'1", 6'2". And I was there, hobbling around on my crutches, trying to move 45-pound weights. And I was switching from one hammer strength machine to the other. And he had stopped me, and he was like, oh, hey, he's like, hey, brother, do you mind if I use this machine? Are you done? And I said, yeah, sir, it's all you. When that moment, he was like, hey, if you don't mind me asking, what'd you do? So I explained to him, like, the whole story. And at the end of it, he says to me, well, are you going to do it again? And I was like, sir, I'll be honest with you, I don't think I'm smart enough to quit wrestling. And he kind of laughed. And he said to me, well, he's like, let me tell you a story. He's like, my dad, when he came back from the war, he had the opportunity to play professional baseball, where he could make $50, I think it was like $50 a day. Or he could work in the factory and make $75 a day. Well, having a young family, he's like, I better take the $75 an hour, or $75 a day job over the $50 an hour, despite the fact that he loved baseball. Mm-hmm. So fast forward several years, he's on his deathbed, and he said, I only have one regret in life, and that's not playing professional baseball.
Wow.
Don't live a life of regret. And I was like, wow, and I was like, that hit me. So from there, I started looking at wrestling. I started looking at how I do things. I started thinking of myself as more of a character, more of a property, more of a brand. And I completely overhauled myself. I changed the way that I did things. And from there, my career, skyrocketed compared to where it was before. I started getting more notoriety, more recognition. Fans because I was working for Combat Zone Wrestling, people were seeing me in more countries. So I started getting fans in like over half a dozen countries, which was really cool because I didn't have that before. But then, as time goes on and you grow, you begin to realize that, maybe you don't love this as much as you used to love it anymore. You see things in the business that you don't necessarily like, and you look at yourself in a different way, and you think, is that the person I want to be? Because the type of person that succeeds in that business is willing to sacrifice everything to be the person that company needs to be, or this industry needs. And yeah. I started to not see myself as that person anymore. I had a son, I got married, and I did it. I went on tour with a musical group, and I truly saw what it was like to have celebrity, what came along with that, and I decided that's not necessarily what I wanted. I saw how people were just nipping, biting at the teat, as it were, of everybody who had any celebrity, and I was like, those aren't the type of people that I want around me. So, that's when things really started to change for me, and I stopped taking less bookings. I started primarily just working Rockstar Pro Wrestling, which for me, that was more or less helping a lot of the younger guys. But it kept me close to home. I was still on pay-per-views. I was still getting exposure, and I was still feeding, that need to be in the ring. Because pro wrestling, I'll be honest with you, is more like a drug than anything. Because once you do it, it's like you're forever chasing the dragon. You're forever addicted, looking for that high again. So a couple months ago, I was in a tag team match, and I did something that I've done thousands of times.
That's usually the start of every story that with an injury. Right. Something I've done a million times, and then I'm sorry. Go ahead, continue.
So I do what they refer to as a springboard enziguri. Well, this time around, the guy was, which is just a kick. You're jumping off the middle rope, and you're giving a kick. For those who don't know, and generally, I can hit a guy and I can land on my back, which still hurts, but your body absorbs more of the blow. It's not landing on one particular point of your body. This time around, the guy was just so close to me that I hit and I fell on my shoulder. Falling on my shoulder, pretty much was the end of the match for me, because at that point I broke my collarbone. I instantly knew it. I rolled out of the ring, finished doing what I had to do. The match was over, and I went back to the back. And everyone was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" Because I display pain a lot differently than other people.
Yeah.
I'm not a yeller. I'm not a screamer. I'm not a crier. I just calmly sat there and I was like, I broke my collarbone. I need some ice. And I couldn't get changed again. Just like in Philadelphia, I had to go to the hospital in my tights. Luckily, this time they didn't have to cut them off of me. Among other things that happened to me that night. But so I'm in the emergency room in my tights with a jacket over me, having to explain to everyone what happened. And they offered to give me the surgery the next day. They said they could admit me that night, and then I could do the surgery in the morning. The only bad part was that my wife had work early in the morning, and I did not want to keep her up, so I opted to just wait. Well, waiting turned into 2 weeks, so they couldn't get me in for 2 weeks, and then I got the surgery. So in the meantime, before and after the surgery, I had a lot of sitting around, and a lot of painkillers in my life, which I hate. This is going to sound terrible, and I hate to give the credit, to doing this, but taking those opiates, like, chilled me out. Because my mind was racing. I was thinking about everything going on. I was thinking about what am I going to do about work? How am I going to get, when am I going to be able to go back to work? When am I going to be able to get back in the ring? How am I going to be able to hit the gym, etc. When I took those painkillers, it completely chilled me out. It allowed for me to think, and it gave me almost this euphoria. And my mind started racing with ideas, and I'm like, what can I do that will utilize my talents and all these skills that I've picked up over the years, and how can I start taking a different path in my life? Because it was at that time that I realized maybe it's time to start, slowly backing away from the wrestling business. Not necessarily all the way out, but, just slowly transitioning out. Because I realized I'm just not as hungry as all these other kids anymore. So much so that, like, I see these guys, and they remind me a lot of us, being younger and being stupid and just being eager to be on the road. And I remember that, and I'm like, I just don't want it as bad as them anymore. So yeah. It was a true inspiration, like, start brainstorming. Well, I love doing design. I've always loved doing design. I love doing art, and I'm like, maybe I should look into what kind of options I have as far as T-shirt designs, because I've always wanted to, like, have a T-shirt company or have a clothing company, but the startup cost of something like that is absolutely ridiculous. The amount of capital that you have to do that is just absolutely insane. And because the standard way of doing shirts is you have a screen printing press, I guess you would say, which to get a decent one alone is at least $2,000. You have your material. You have to have the ability to print these things out in transparencies. I mean, there's a lot of initial materials that go into it, and this is the very old school way of printing T-shirts, and for a while I did that. I printed my own merchandise, but it's so much of a hassle. But it also costs a ridiculous amount of money to go to a printing company to do your traditional printing company, because they want to charge you all kind of fees. They want to charge you a design fee. They want to charge you a screen fee, which in all reality is all BS.
Yes.
So it's like, what kind of options do I have? So I very simply, I got on YouTube, because YouTube has everything. You want to know how to change the part on your car? Go to YouTube. You need therapy. You need to find out if you're a sociopath or not, or you just have issues. I swear to God, there's a page for everything. God, I couldn't tell you how many dinners I've learned to cook in my time off just from YouTube. But I wanted to look into T-shirt hosting companies, and I found some random top 5 T-shirt hosting companies, and the one that really appealed to me the most was Spreadshirt. So I got on there, I developed a Spreadshirt account, and the thing that I loved about Spreadshirt was it reminded me of like CustomInk.com, where you can go in and you can either upload your design or you can design your shirt right there. But the beautiful part about Spreadshirt was that they hosted a store. Okay? So they hosted a store. They had a design program, you could upload your design. But more than that, it was so customizable. So not only could you have your own store, you could change the colors. You could have, you could change the banner. You could. There's just so many options. And for a standard shirt on a really basic Gildan shirt, you could do 3 colors for $11. And I was like, that blew my mind. I was like, okay, well, instantly what I wanted to do was I wanted to see what the quality of the shirts were. So I sent off. I had my first design uploaded and printed off and sent to me, and that was the "Quitting's for Pussies" shirt, because I felt like it was really appropriate just for my situation, because I honestly felt, I felt like that quitting is for pussies, and I'm sorry if that offends anybody. I know we live in that world nowadays where everyone's so easily offended, but I come from a world where you suck it up and you move on, or you fail, and there's no excuse for it. You can only hold yourself accountable, and there's such a lack of accountability in people's lives these days. It's ridiculous.
Amen.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. The whole quitting for pussies, man, I 100% endorse that, and the shirt that's on it, man. It's, honestly, it's fucking, quitting's fucking easy, That's the easy fucking way out.
Absolutely. And I can see the appeal. Like, I'll just give up and do something else. Or you could endure and potentially create something great. And that's not only how I felt, with the start of this, but just in my life in general, because God knows life gets hard. I mean, I'll be the first to tell you that. Like you said, I've broken so many damn bones, and
Yep.
And because of professional wrestling, I've got to do some of the coolest things and endure some of the worst personal strife I've ever had to go through because of my dedication to a business and the sacrificing of my relationships, not only with family, but, girlfriends, fiancés, et cetera, et cetera. But anyways, I'm getting off track.
Okay, you keep going rabbit trails, man. This is awesome. I'm with you all the way.
So as soon as I got that in, I cracked it open and I looked and I was like, this is awesome. It is a screen printed shirt, but the process that they use is so more cost effective for them that it's almost like, I think it's referred to as like a digital screen print. It's by no means like an iron-on, crappy, fabrication. It is like screen-printed T-shirt, and you can do up to 3 colors for one design. Now, if you were to try to do that with other traditional screen printing companies or T-shirt companies, they're going to charge you for each screen, because each color requires an additional screen. So let's say you have 3 colors, you have 3 screens that they want you to pay normally $25 for. Okay,
Yep.
So there you go. There's $75. You haven't even. That's not even the cost of your shirt yet. So, but each one of those screens has to be an individual layer. So much like if you were to use like any sort of Photoshop where you have it's like that, but in the real world. With this, I don't know because I've never seen the process. You get 3 options. You get three colors for one design, and they print it out to you and send it to you. For me, it cost me $11. Okay, so for me, I paid $11 for a shirt that I made, has 3 colors. I can put whatever I want on it, and they send it right to my house. But not only that, I can create a page full of shirts of my own designs, increase the price to whatever price I want to sell them at, and then they pretty much do all the work. They get their cut. They're also printing the shirts, supplying the shirts, printing the shirts, and then sending them directly to your customer.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome because I didn't have to spend any money. So I basically created a T-shirt brand and a T-shirt company with no money whatsoever. I literally had to spend no money because in all reality, I didn't have to buy that shirt, but I wanted to know what kind of quality, I would be offering because God knows I wouldn't want to start to build a brand and then offer like some god awful quality shirt that fades or cracks in one wash. Which I'll be honest with you, I've worn some custom made shorts and screen printed shirts recently from a local group or a local company, and they've cracked like after a couple washes, and I'm like, I paid $25 for this. This is ridiculous, So I wanted to make sure that for a company, because generally if it seems too good to be true, it normally is. I just had to know. And to be honest with you, I've been very, very happy with the quality. And as of recently, I think I've ordered probably 120 shirts because they do offer a bulk discount. So let's say I did want to carry some sort of stock, which in the beginning I didn't. I wanted to have. I wanted to start and not have to carry any sort of stock with me whatsoever because I didn't want to worry about the upfront cost. And I didn't want to have to worry about keeping them somewhere. But a relative of mine saw what I was doing, and he's like, man, this is a great idea. He's like, you should start doing trade shows. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, man, order a bulk amount of shirts. He's like, and start doing trade shows. He's like, man, I guarantee you'll be able to sell them. Because I have a lot of like pro Second Amendment and I'm a very patriotic person, so I have a lot of like American themed shirts and whatnot. He's like, pick out like 4 or 5 different designs, man, and he's like, and we'll go to we'll set up at the like up here. We got the Bill Goodman's Gun and Knife Show. You may remember. He's like, get a booth. He's like, they're cheap. He's like, set up, sell your stuff, man. And I'm like, that's a great idea. So we're actually getting ready to do our first trade show, not this week, but next week. So I'm real excited to see, if it's a success or it's a complete bust. If it's a complete bust, that's okay, because I can find a different venue to sell the shirts, and not necessarily a live trade show venue, but I can move them online, or I could sell the bulk amount of them to a local gas station, for instance. I don't know if you've ever known, but you go to some of these like mom and pop gas stations, and they have these T-shirts hanging up. Mm-hmm. Well, what they do is you go in and you speak to the proprietor or the owner of the business, and you say, hey, I will sell you these shirts for X amount of dollars, and they're yours. And then they mark them up for whatever they want. So if I really hurting to get rid of them, I could sell them to them at cost, make my money back, and then still, be in the green. So, I mean, I have a lot of options, and depending on which way I want to go, or depending on, how successful we are with this first trade show coming up, it's definitely going to determine if we continue to go on that route or not. Because I think that's, a really awesome, and I love that because, like I said, I am so, pro-American. I'm a very patriotic person, but I don't want to be painted just into that corner or that niche. I want to be. I want to be, and I've started using this tagline. I want American Rivals to be more than a brand. I want it to be more of a lifestyle. I want people to see that. To see American Rivals, to see the logo, and see the the designs we offer, and be like, hell yeah, that's an awesome shirt. That's me.
Yeah.
For instance, I have a shirt that just says America on it, because that's such a popular thing to say, but it looks like the Metallica logo, so it's like pretty gnarly. It looks
America.
Like Metallica. And I have stuff like that. My favorite right now is it says it has like 2 options with the check mark, a check box on the end of it. One says politically correct, and then underneath that it says complete asshole. But it's like I have as I've started expanding out into social media, and before I'm not a huge social media guy, and I kept it, and even for wrestling, I always shunned away from it. Even though I know how big Twitter is, I know how obviously everyone knows how big Facebook is,
Yeah.
and Instagram and so on and so forth. I always I just did not appeal to me. I did not think it was, in my mind at the time, I did not think it was that big of a deal or that big of a way to expand me as a brand. And I was completely wrong, because the more research that I've done into this, the more I noticed that like some of the most successful companies are advertising on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's brilliant. And I look how many likes these people get. I look at how many followers they have, and I was like, there's 18,000 followers, and they're not posting, they're hardly even posting anything about the products they sell or the services they offer. It's just, they're just posting about stuff that's related to their brand, and they're getting a ton of follows and likes. And I'm like, I am like not taking advantage of this, and I need to be.
Yeah.
So the American Rivals brand, I've started to step out and dig into Instagram, Facebook. Facebook's always going to be there, but the real big one now is Twitter. Twitter's the new one that I'm working on, because you have to have some sort of presence on Twitter. I don't care what you're doing, just have some sort of presence on Twitter. And some of the most influential people, because I've been following politics, the past couple of years, and some of the most influential people are on Twitter. I think, initially I thought it was stupid. Who cares? Who cares? But when you look at it, some of the most influential people are on Twitter. Your Donald Trumps, but that's an easy one. Donald Trump's an easy one. There's another guy. He's a gay Englishman. His name is Milo Yiannopoulos, I think is his name.
Mm-hmm.
And he totally built a following on mostly on Twitter. And then he is a columnist for, I want to say it's Breitbart News, and he just made this presence online so much so now that he's doing campus tours and making money. And I'm like, wow! I was like, you got big how on Twitter? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
So Twitter is more important. Even though I don't like to admit that, it's more important than what I truly give a credit for.
Yeah. I think you and I always agreed about social media. You and I, it was like, I think MySpace when you and I first started hanging out, and that was the big thing. And you and I were kind of like, whatever. There were some people that were like, just they get to posting all their statuses. But yeah, I agree with you, man. Where it's like you look at it from a business standpoint. If you just think on a personal level in your business, unfortunately, you're going to miss out on a great opportunity. Like one of the big things right now, Snapchat. It's fucking just huge right now, and businesses are exploding on Snapchat alone.
I'll be honest with you. I've used Snapchat for personal use, just for friends, because you get a stupid video or a stupid picture, and you can't keep it. I very quickly lost interest. But that's another one that's blowing up, and I'm like, how do I move into that? So a lot of this is new. Like I'm still truly at the foundation level.
Yeah.
Trying to build this into a brand, and at first it was all about I just came up with a name that I thought was cool, it sounded cool to me, and I mean, like I said before, I love America. I mean, damn. But I was like, I want this brand, this brand name to be cool, and potentially, if I want to continue on, I can grow it, and I would be okay, with keeping it. And now, the more that I started moving forward, the more that I started studying analytics, looking at venues like social media, and progressing the business itself, I started asking myself, what's something I can do that once again utilizes my skills that I've acquired over the years, and something I can be successful with, and something I know. And it just dawned on me. I was like, I should probably start looking into creating my own supplement line because I've been involved in the nutrition and fitness industry for like off and on for the past 10 years, and I'm like, and currently I work for one of the largest supplement brands in the world, really. Everybody knows them. More people know the product they make than they know the name of the company. But if you've ever taken C4, you know Cellucor. So
I look at Kevin. Yep, that's his crack right there.
That's my crack, baby.
It's funny is when I started working for the company, people would see me in my Cellucor polo, and they're like, "Oh man, how you been?" And I'm like, "Oh, good, this and that, small talk." And they're like, "Who you working for? Who's Cellucor? Is that a cell phone company?" I said, "No. Well, you work out." And they're like, "Yeah, I work out." And it's like, "You take C4?" "Of course I take C4. We make C4." And that's to me, that's one of those inspiring things, is because it's such a great example of brand recognition. Because, Cellucor is a very recognizable brand, but the product they make is even more recognizable than the company itself. So,
yeah.
And they realize
it's incredible for pre-workout, which it's oddly enough, we can always put the link in the description below. But yeah, C4 is good stuff, man. And pre-workouts comes, man. I'll tell you what, you only need about one scoop, and you're feeling like freaking King Kong, about ready to go flip some freaking Hummers.
Well, and what's funny is, so I was working with GNC when Cellucor first hit the market. I even remember when everything came in tin cans, which was cool. I was like, this is sweet. It was a pain in the ass though when you would, because any of the powdered products, you would get the creatine or the powder inside the threads of the lid. And you can never really get the lid back on that well, so that's when they switched to the plastic. But I was always a big supporter of them, especially with their P6, the testosterone booster, because at the time, from what I had read, and I don't know if this still holds true or not, P6, they were using it as a way to boost the testosterone in males who had HIV and AIDS to help start rebuilding muscle, and it was working.
Wow.
At least that's what I was being told at the time. I'll be honest with you, I haven't looked back into it to see if that was true.
Right.
But
right.
The current studies on the product were awesome. I've had a lot of great feedback. I had this older gentleman down in Crestview Hills, Kentucky, tell me it was actually my first event with Cellucor, and he had walked in and grabbed a year's worth of P6. Now P6 is a high-end item. It's easily over $100, and he walked in and set a year's worth of P6 on the table. and I was walking out of the back room, and I said, "Wow." I was impressed. For one, I was happy with the guy who was selling it. I was like, "Good." I was like, "You're going to make some money."
That's a serious commission right there, because I remember Cellucor kicked some awesome commissions back in the day.
We still do, too. And I was like, "You must really like P6." And he goes, "Well, let me tell you." Well, at the same time as he started to tell his story, the manager handed me his test results, because he had brought in his test results from the doctor showing where his test levels were. Mm-hmm. And it was just really cool. And he told me the reason why he came in initially was because he was taking the synthetic testosterone shots to his doctor. And which all that is, for anybody who really knows, it's steroids. That's all, what the doctor gives you is essentially the same thing that bodybuilders it's steroids. It's synthetic hormone.
Yeah.
The problem with that is when you take synthetic hormone, your body's natural reaction is to slow down or stop that natural hormone production, which in all reality does more harm than good.
Yes.
So the kicker for him is that his insurance stopped paying for it, so he had to pay $350 a pop, and that was just not. He's like, I just can't do that anymore. So he came in looking for another option, and the manager down there was a guy named Joey. Joey set him up on a cycle of P6. So when he came back in, obviously he had his test results. He was very happy because it had actually showed where his test levels were on synthetic tests was around 530, which isn't bad at all. Mm-hmm. But it showed also too when he dropped off, when he was off his synthetic shots, dropped off. He was in the low 200s. Well, then when he peaked on P6, it was over 1,000. So he had doubled.
Holy
Wow.
damn! That dude was putting on some size, I bet.
Well, he was a happy older guy. I'm sure his wife was happy too.
Yeah, that's one of the nice little side effects of testosterone, man.
Absolutely, that was one of his biggest issues. So when he saw that, he was like, "I'm coming in and I'm buying a year's worth of P6 at a fraction of the cost of what he was going to spend in 6 months for testosterone shots."
Wow.
So, I mean, Secor has always made a quality product. They really hit pay dirt with C4. And the thing is that C4 wasn't their first their first pre-workout. We were making a amazing pre-workout called N0. N0 had 3 different vasodilators in it. It had no creatine. We called it the lean machine. It had more than just caffeine in there. It had something called zanephrine. Zanephrine would actually mimic the effects of ephedra. So it was good for fat burning and performance, vasodilation, the whole nine. I thought it was amazing. It didn't taste as good as C4, but I thought it was amazing. I won't lie. Let's see. I got a bottle of it sitting around here somewhere. Screw it. But I believe in the product wholeheartedly. Well, because the sales were so bad, because P6 had become such a recognizable brand, product, they decided to discontinue the N0, which in my opinion was, for me, a better performance product.
Yeah.
And started going more with the C4, which C4, don't get me wrong, C4 is still an awesome product because you're getting like the Teacore stimulants in there along with the caffeine, and you're getting creatine nitrate, which creatine nitrate, we came out with a separate product called CN3, and we sent that off to Texas A&M University before we ever released it to have a study. And it came back, and the tests were, ridiculously good. You're looking at close to 100% absorption of creatine.
Wow.
No water retention. You're taking a smaller dose. But since it's a creatine attached to a nitrate molecule, you were getting a pump off of it too. So a lot of people can use it as a stem-free pre-workout. And to top it off, it tasted, which most creatine tastes like butt.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, butt on a good day.
But we add the creatine nitrate to like the C4, and we have like a plethora of C4 flavors. But to get back to my main point, C4 became just so recognizable. Everybody knew what C4 was. You have C4 in Walmart and Costco's now. It's ridiculous. My cousin takes C4. Pretty much everybody I know takes C4 or has taken C4 at some time if they work. If you work out, you know what C4 is. So,
yeah, for sure. It almost like anymore if somebody says C4, I stop thinking about actual like dynamite or explosives, and I think about the pre-workout. It's like someone says C4, I'd be like, all right, I'm in. Who's got a scoop?
My skin starts to tingle automatically.
Oh my God, I couldn't tell you how many times I've been drinking it in the car, just using it as an energy drink, and someone will slam on the brakes in front of me, and I'll slam on the brakes in reaction, and I just feel this beta-alanine, wash of tingliness wash over me. And for me, being bald, I feel it go over my head, and I'm just like, whoa, and it's an incredible feeling. You truly know that you're alive when something like that happens.
Dude, you remember actually some of the times, it's so funny, we're rabbit trailing, and I want to come back to talking about American Rivals and, of course, your expansion over into supplements, because I think I'm very excited for you, and, you and I were kind of looking at some options. But in any event, do you remember what my pre-workout was? I would always drink like some kind of an energy drink, or I'd have like Inno Explode before I would go into the ring. So, of course, I get all like intense, and I think no, you weren't with me. I was with Jobber one time, and legit, I locked up with a dude, and he's like, "Hey, bro, are you okay?" The guy was legit shitting his pants because he thought I was like literally gonna rip his head off, like it was gonna become a shoot, a very real situation. I was like, "Why? What's up?" He's like, "You look pissed." I was like, "Good."
See, I totally got into that mentality of doing the same thing, because back then I worked for GNC, and as you know, and even you did some time with the company.
Yeah, twice.
For the longest time, my favorite pre-workout was from now, a current business rival in Muscle Tech, and they had Vapor because back then there was only 4 pre-workouts. You had Load, you had Black Powder by MRI, you had Muscle Tech's Vapor, and then you had Super Pump 250 by Gaspari, which I lovingly called Super Dump 250 because it had so much lithium in it that you instantly wanted to crap yourself as soon as you took it.
This is legit either. He's not exaggerating. I remember I was working out with somebody once, and he's like, I got to take my Super Dump, and he threw it down, and they're like, we're 5 minutes into the workout. This motherfucker doesn't say a word. He just goes over to the bathroom, and he comes back. He's like, I feel better. I was like, dude, you're legit. That it's making you want to shit. He's like, yeah. I was afraid to go around Super Pump for the longest time, but my understanding is actually didn't they end up cleaning that up because I think by the time I started taking it, it wasn't making me go take a shit.
I mean, there's been numerous reformulations because back then, like pre-workouts were in their infancy, man. Like you had so many experimental things going on. For instance, I remember a bottle of InnoVapor falling off the shelf in my store, and I was like, me being lazy at the time, I was just like, I'll get it in a minute, and the top popped off of it because the ingredients inside were volatile as shooken, and I was like, wow, that's intense. What's that doing inside my body?
No doubt.
So,
that might be safe.
but then, as soon as that caught on and it became real popular, you had numerous companies coming out with their pre-workout. And I'd say the one that actually revolutionized the business or the industry when it came to pre-workouts was Jack 3D.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody remembers the original formula Jack 3D because it was so strong, and it was micronized too. So it was the first pre-workout that was real small. It didn't have a huge scoop like the older ones, like your old Inno Explode. And I think it was
Inno Explode. The scoops were like this fucking big, and maybe 3 at a time.
And that's the truth too, man. I still remember like mixing up my black powder, and black powder is probably my favorite after Muscle Tech's. Because it absorbed so quickly, and I mean, it started working real fast. But like the creatine would sit in the bottom, and you could taste the granules of creatine pour into the back of your throat, and it was awful. Like you had to have
kitty litter. It was like
clumpy kitty litter.
That's the best way to describe it, and which is funny nowadays because I feel like such an old man when I tell people. When I hear people complain about flavors of pre-workout, and I'm like, listen, I come from a day and age when everything tasted like shit, and anything that remotely tasted good was awesome, and you loved it, and it was a successful product because people were like, oh, it's the one supplement that actually tastes good, like Muscle Milk. Muscle Milk is a crappy formula when it comes to overall protein content and what's in it, but it tasted delicious.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody bought it, including myself. But when you actually look at it, it's less than 50% actual protein in there. It's more like 40% or lower. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, I was like, that's cool if you're not looking for gains or anything like that, but it was always about flavor, and nowadays just about everything tastes good. I mean, I know everything Ceticore makes tastes good. That's something we pride ourselves on. Not only that, but having high-quality products. So.
Yeah, for sure. So before we rabbit trail too much farther, man, we gotta bring it back around to your brand, man, because by the time people are done, they're gonna be like going, oh, I'm gonna go check out Cellucor. So share a little bit about your transition to taking American Rivals not only as a design company, but also expanding over into the pre-workouts and of course just supplementation altogether, because it's very clear anybody that's listening to this or watching this. They're going to know your shit.
Well, once again, it was one of those things that it's something that I was thinking of all the skills. What's part of my arsenal? What do I have in the bag? What are my pros as opposed to focusing on my what I'm bad at. I want to focus on what I'm good at and capitalize off that. And working for such a company, which is just for the record, just in case there's anybody else out there who works for Cytocor, I am not producing anything yet. This is just an idea, because it'll be a complete conflict of interest, and I'll have to part ways with Cytocor. And I won't feel bad about it, because as much as I love the company and as much as I would love to move up in the company, I'm in this mentality now that it's not mine. You know, I don't want to be an employee. I want to be the boss, and not just the boss in an authoritarian way, but I want to be able to create something, watch it grow, and feel responsible for it, as opposed to helping somebody else's product grow.
Yeah, it's kind of like something that you end up birthing. It's the huge difference between, say, hosting a daycare where you're watching somebody else's kids or having a kid, and you're going to have much more attachment to your own kid.
And that's a great analogy too. So when I started, I knew I had a skill in it. It was just kind of dawned on me that branching out into supplements is something that was a no-brainer. I can come up with a formulation. I know what's good in products. Also, too, nowadays the technology as such is that there's so many companies out there that you can go to and be like, hey, this is my formula, make this for me, how much is it going to be? And you don't have to worry about any sort of like raw materials, be in your possession, and have to worry about that, have to worry about quality control. These companies will take your request, they will make it, half the time they'll even package it for you, work with you on that, and produce your product. And to top it off, in a similar way to Spreadshirt, they will keep your product for you and they'll do drop shipping. Which is appealing to some, and even I considered it myself, but I think it's one of those things like, okay, I'm already doing that with the shirts, it would be almost better for me to actually have that live product, so I can take that live product anywhere, because internet sales are going to be crucial, creating a brand online is going to be crucial, but when it comes down to it, getting out there and being in the environment where these people buy this stuff, is going to be where I'm going to get the name out. That's where people are going to be able to try it. But you can't try a sample just by looking at a picture. You can try a sample if you go to my booth and I hook you up before the workout, and then you come back to me and you're like, listen, man, that was really good. Where can I find this? And then you can capitalize on it, so word of mouth and so on and so forth. That's pretty much how I viewed it. Like, and right now I'm still in the development stage where I'm weighing my options. There's a lot of companies out there now, too, that do what's called private labeling. And with private labeling, pretty much they have their own formulas from company to company. And what you do is they have it already prepared. All you do is create your custom label, create your brand, slap it on there, and once again, they can either carry it for you, drop ship it, or you can buy it and keep it. Whether you have like a brick and mortar store, or you do live events, or you ship out from your website, whatever the case may be. And to me, that's awesome. I mean, if you're trying to get a brand started, what better way to do it than to have that option of already having a protein, having a creatine, having all the fundamentals that make up supplementation, a multivitamin, testosterone supplement, BCAAs, your foundation products. I mean, that's really going to set you up to have a good platform, to go from there. And then even on top of that, having your custom options, which is what I'm. Not only am I looking into the private labeling, but I'm also looking into just the custom formulations, because that's where I feel like I'm really going to stand out. Because I know what I like in a pre-workout. I know what my friends like in a pre-workout. I know what they're looking for. You're looking for performance. You're looking for energy. You're looking for pump. And so long as you can nail all those points, keep it at a decent price point, and not have a bunch of bullshit in it. Some proprietary blend. You don't know what it is, and I don't. I'm sure there's numerous people out there who agree with me. They look at the back of a pre-workout, and you're like, I don't know what any of this crap is.
Yep.
Which not everybody's going to know. When there's ingredients on there that I can't even pronounce, let alone know, and I have to look up and I can't find anything on, like, that bothers me.
Mhm.
And to me, it almost kills accountability and credibility with your consumer, because a lot of people are like, they want a good product, but they don't want any BS either. No one wants to be, jerked around when it comes to what they're, putting in their bodies. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're coming into a new era of information because I mean it's right at everybody's fingertips, and so with people that are taking supplementation, they're being hospitalized or sometimes even dying. I think a lot of people are starting to see those things and they're starting to become a lot more self-aware and saying, okay, should I be putting this in me? And if so, are these things that are going to be good for me or even for my goals? So that's really, really awesome, man. I'm excited for that whole thing. You know damn well, as soon as you get a pre-workout, I'll order 10 of them bitches. Um,
I tell you what, man. We're living in a culture now. The culture's changing, and it's changing for the better. Whereas, like, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, fitness was, you had your basically the same percentage of people in the United States involved in fitness. And you had numerous years before that. But now, for whatever reason, and I don't know if it's because of CrossFit or just um, or what. I mean, I can't point to any specific reason. Being fit is a cool thing to do, or being in fitness, or doing CrossFit, or doing powerlifting, or just working out in general. That's becoming such a popular thing in culture right now, and like it's such a prime time to capitalize on it, especially if you know what you're doing. Um,
yeah.
there's definitely opportunity there, and definitely money to be made. Um, and
Yeah,
for me,
absolutely. But in the same instance, hopefully anybody that's paying attention, not any Tom, Dick, or Harry, but hopefully we, hear what Dustin say that you have at least some kind of a knowledge and skill set in order to go into something like that.
absolutely. I'll give you a specific story, actually. So I work at an LA Fitness, and ever since they opened this place, they always had an area for a juice bar. But in the, let's say, 9 years that it's been open, they've only had one juice bar per weekend. And at the time, and I found that really interesting. Because for one, I love juice bars. I love having my protein shake. So much more enjoyable than guzzling it down. But I was really interested in having I saw that he had a product there. Because the guy had bought into a franchise. And I started talking to him about it. And I said, what made you get into this? And he said, well, he's like, was in the Air Force for 13 years, and I commanded people. He's like, I figured, I could run a business. And I said, oh, okay, that's cool, man. I can respect that, because it takes some balls. Anytime you buy into a franchise, you're assuming a lot of risk, but you don't know if you're going to succeed or not. And
Yeah.
that's with any business. And I was like, well, what can you tell me about your product? He goes, oh, it's good protein. I said, okay, well, what kind of protein is it? It's whey protein. I said, but what kind is it? Is it isolate? Is it concentrate, etc.? I'll have to look. Because along with the
Wow.
franchise, he had his own products that came along with it.
Hmm.
So he was trying to push his products that he knew very, 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 very little about onto people, who have been taking these protein vitamins for years at this point, and he's trying to tell them what to be taking, that you should take this instead of what you're taking, because that's not, this one's better. When really he didn't know, he wasn't educated on it. He wasn't educated at all in the sports nutrition field, but he figured
Mm.
the Air Force for 13 years, he could do this. He learned very quickly that you have to have some sort of knowledge base to work from, or else you're not going to succeed, and he didn't. Fast forward a couple
Yeah.
months, and he was gone. And I've not seen another, smoothie bar in there since.
Yeah.
Which is a real shame because I know the dude probably lost his ass on it. But
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
the risk you got to take. But I just, I just always look back at that like I'm not going to go into horse breeding and pretend that I know shit about horse breeding.
Kevin does.
Right.
Kevin,
Yeah.
he's the
Oh, easy now there, Trigger.
I'll be honest with you. When I was with my son's mother, she boarded horses. Okay, I don't know shit about horses. Okay, in fact, they kind of scare me because they're so big. They can very easily run over you and trample you and prance away. But when she got pregnant with my son, I couldn't let her go out there and take care of those horses anymore. So I was kind of thrown into the fire, and I'm like, all right, I better figure this out on my own. So I tried to learn as much as I could from her to take care of these damn horses. And believe me, I was very, very terrified because they are so much bigger than you. And we were boarding this one stallion, I guess. And every time I used to go let him out of the barn, he used to give me so much hell. I'd have to put him on a lead rope. He's, jumping up and, like, being all wild and scaring the shit out of me. And I'm like, what do I do? I was like, what am I supposed to do? And she goes, he goes to, like, get all wild on you. She's like, you just need to jerk down on that lead rope real hard, and he'll listen up. I said, all right. So, fast forward to the next morning, he starts giving me hell again. I just, with all my strength, I jerked down on that lead rope, and he straightened up like that. I was like, damn, that does work. And then he listened to me. I took him out to the field, let him go, and I had no problems with him. I was like, oh, my God, I was like, that was awesome. I was like, now, when it came to the pony was a little asshole. Oh, my God, they're worse than the bigger horses. The ponies are terrible, terrible. I don't suggest anybody to get a pony. Don't ever get a pony, and don't ever name it Buttercup.
Buttercup.
I almost lost my. I thought I had tore my Achilles tendon because of her pony Buttercup got out, and at the time we had my dog chained up to the fence because she was running off because she was in heat. Well, Buttercup got out. And I'm trying to, wrangle her back into the field. Well, she decided to take a shortcut in front of my dog. Well, my dog freaked out and ran in front of her, which caused her to run, which caused her to get tangled in the dog cable. And then the dog ran around me, took me out. So I'm attached to this dog who's attached to this cable, and the cable's attached to the horse, and the horse is, the pony's bucking like crazy, and I'm like, I'm going to get knocked out. This is it. This is how I'm going out. Death by pony. Eventually it gets tired, so it just sits down on me. So you got this pony just sits down on me.
No.
I was like, my ankle's tied up. I was like, I probably tore my Achilles tendon. This is it. My wrestling career is over. I'm yelling for my kid's mom. I'm like screaming for her. I was like, get out here. Save me!
I'm gonna die!
I remember slipping or reaching through underneath the pony, slipping my dog's collar so she could run away, which let us loose. Pony jumps up, runs away. I'm blocking my face so she doesn't kick my teeth out, knock me out. And I get up and I start limping to the back door. I'm so upset. And I start banging on the back door. And eventually my son's mom comes to the door, and she's like, what's wrong? What happened? And I'm standing there, that pony. I'm going to take the dog, And
We're going to the glue factory.
Dog food.
She says, what's that smell? The dog had been chained up there, so the dog was crapping everywhere. So during the ordeal, I'm rolling around in dog crap, and I turn around.
No.
We're covered in dog crap. That's so funny. And she's laughing at me, which is just pissing me off even more. I'm so upset because that weekend I had to go out to Philadelphia, and it was my second pay-per-view I was ever working on. I was still trying to, and I'm working in the historical ECW arena. It's a big deal. And I'm like, here I am with this potentially messed up ankle, which I ended up being fine. But I was like, I was none too pleased about Buttercup.
Was that pre-femur breaking?
That was pre-femur breaking. That was bleach blonde hair, Nazi armband, Nazi-esque, it was
Nazi-esque, yes. So the audience doesn't think, it's like, we got to make sure, we said it in the show with John Gray on it. Wrestling's a work, okay? We can all say it right now, all right? So, Dustin is not a Nazi.
Listen, and I'll be honest with you, I feel like I would have much more success nowadays with that gimmick more so than what I did back then, because everyone, loves to throw out the Hitler, oh, you're a racist, you're a Nazi, you're this. They love to throw that out now. So I'm like, man, that's cheap heat. That'd be easy. Like, I just do all. Rewind to back when I was doing that, and I remember being wrestling in a small town in Indiana. And I won't lie, I was laying it on thick that night. I was giving, the hand gestures and goose stepping out to the ring, and the crowd was cheering for me. And I was like, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Wow. So you end up getting a freaking cheap pop from doing something you were going to get cheap heat from.
I was working with our friend, Jake Christ. And we instantly we went down to the mat, and in the middle of the ring, I was like, I think it's time for us to switch the gimmick up. So he became the bad guy, and I became the babyface. Just because of that reaction, and I could not get any heat because I was popular, because I was a blonde-haired Nazi-esque goose stepper. Like, it was terrible, and to this day it blows my mind that happened.
It's wrestling's a stranger than fiction sometimes, but hey man, we're actually beyond our hour right now, so I want to start to wrap things up. We've covered so much ground, and some of it, we've rabbit trailed, but you've brought in some really awesome stories. So in any event, how can someone get a hold of you, and of course, where can somebody go to get a hold of some of your apparel?
Right now, I'm still using the shop for Spreadshirt, but it's luckily I own the domain AmericanRivals.com, rivals with an S. So you can go there. Pretty soon, we're actually going to be launching a full site where we're going to have more than shirts. We're going to have some additional merchandise on there too, like stickers and whatnot. You can find me at AmericanRival, the number 1 at gmail.com, or DustinRayz at gmail.com, all one word. For anybody that has any questions or has any advice, I mean, I feel like a sponge right now, more so now in my life than I feel like I ever have been. And I feel like an old dog that you can actually teach new tricks. So for anybody who does want to hit me up or have any questions, just please do. I'm open book, and I'd love to learn. So
that's tremendous, man. I really do appreciate you taking time out of your night, man. It's awesome, man. You've actually made the job for Kevin and I easy. Like, Kevin, are you alive over there? I see you move.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had to take the mic off mute, man. This was awesome.
Nice.
No, I loved it. No, beautiful.
Very good. Well, hey, folks, please, actually, the information to contact Dustin is inside the show description, so you can just go down there and click that show description. Show some love. If you're on YouTube for some reason, leave some comments. Show Dustin some love here. So once again, you can get a hold of him and his products over at AmericanRivals.com. So in the meantime, folks, thank you for tuning in. And don't forget, check us out every Wednesday and Sunday for new episodes. Ta-ta!
La-di-da.
Just a reminder, you can support the show by simply shopping at Amazon through the link in the show description. Every time you make a purchase through the provided link, a small percentage of sales goes back to support our show and cover overhead costs. And there's no additional cost to you, and it greatly helps us out. Simply go to the link, bookmark it in your browser, and do your shopping on Amazon at no extra cost to you while you support your 2 favorite podcast personalities, Bootstrap Businessmen.
Absolutely, Dale. And also, everybody, just as a reminder, you can follow us at Stitcher.com. Just type in Bootstrap Businessmen. It's going to, pull up all of our shows and episodes so you can listen to us there. Go to SoundCloud.com. Type in Bootstrap Businessmen. iTunes.com. And type in Bootstrap Businessmen. And you can follow us. You can download the podcast on your phone if you have an iPhone. Stitcher and SoundCloud both have an app that you can put on your phone so you never miss an episode.